A man hasn't slept through the night in 4 years, not once. Not a single night without waking up at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. or 3:47 a.m., with his sheets soaked and his heart running at 160 beats per minute and the taste of dust and diesel in his mouth from a road in Helmand Province that he left in 2019, but that never left him. 1,461 nights. He's counted. He counts everything now, the exits in every room, the seconds between a car backfiring and his hands stopping shaking, the number of Ambien he has left in the bottle, and whether it's enough to get through the week. His name is Marcus Boone. He's 34 years old. He did 3 tours. He came home with all his limbs and none of his sleep, and a Purple Heart he keeps in a sock drawer because looking at it makes his chest tight. 4 years of nightmares. Every single night. And then, a 170-pound dog that looks like something out of a mythology textbook lay across his bedroom doorway and did something so primitive and so absurdly simple that it makes me angry no one thought of it sooner. But nobody did. Because nobody understood what Marcus needed at 3 a.m. Not medicine, not therapy, not a white noise machine, but the sound of something massive and alive breathing between him and the door. Let me tell you about the dog, because the world had already written him off too. His name was Sable, 170 pounds of black and tan, with a mane, an actual mane, that circled his neck and shoulders like a lion's. His coat was dense, double-layered, the kind that makes your hand disappear when you push into it, and it smelled like mountain air and lanolin and something ancient, like wool that's been in a chest for decades. His head was broad, his muzzle shorter than you'd expect for his size, and his expression was, I'm going to use a word here that I don't use lightly, noble. Not friendly, not cute, noble. The look of something that has been guarding high-altitude livestock in the Himalayas for 3,000 years and doesn't understand why it's standing on linoleum. Tibetan Mastiffs are not like other dogs. I need you to understand this because it explains everything. They were bred in the mountains of Tibet and Nepal to guard monasteries and nomadic camps at night. At night. That's the key word. During the day, Tibetan Mastiffs are calm, almost lazy. They sleep, they watch, they conserve energy. But when the sun goes down, they transform. They become nocturnal sentinels. They pace perimeters. They listen for threats in the dark. They position themselves between their people and whatever might come through the night. For 3,000 years, their job has been to make sure nothing gets past them while the people they guard are sleeping. That's not training. That's genealogy. That's blood memory. And it's the reason this story ends the way it does. Sable had been at a breed-specific rescue in Western Virginia for 14 months. His first owner had bought him as a puppy from an online breeder who marketed Tibetan Mastiffs as exotic luxury pets. $3,500, shipped from a facility in Ohio. The owner was a 28-year-old tech worker who wanted an impressive dog for his Instagram. He didn't research the breed. He didn't understand that a Tibetan Mastiff puppy grows into 170 pounds of independent, nocturnal, territory-driven guardian that doesn't fetch, doesn't do tricks, and doesn't care about your follower count. By 18 months, Sable was pacing the apartment at 2 a.m., barking at sounds the owner couldn't hear, and positioning himself in doorways so firmly that the owner had to step over him to use the bathroom. The owner surrendered him with a note that said, "Won't sleep at night, barks at nothing, blocks doors, can't control him." And that, right there, is the part that breaks my heart. Because every single thing that owner listed as a problem was Sable doing exactly what 3,000 years of breeding built him to do. Pacing at night, he was patrolling, barking at nothing. He was alerting to sounds human ears can't detect. Blocking doorways, he was standing guard. The dog wasn't broken. The dog was a night watchman locked in a studio apartment with someone who wanted a prop. The flaw wasn't in the dog. The flaw was in every person who looked at the behavior and didn't see the purpose behind it. 14 months at the rescue. The listing said, Tibetan Mastiff, male, 170 pounds, 3 years old, nocturnal, highly independent, not suitable for apartments, first-time owners, or homes without secure fencing. Requires experienced large breed handler. 7 inquiries, 7 people who read nocturnal and independent and said no. The rescue volunteer who cared for Sable, a woman named Audra, said he was the gentlest dog she'd ever handled during the day. At night, He paced his kennel run, walked the fence line, and sat facing the road until dawn. "He's not anxious," Audra said. "He's on duty. He just doesn't have anything to guard." Marcus Boone came home from his third deployment in August 2019, 2 tours in Afghanistan, 1 in Iraq. Combat engineer, the guys who find and disarm IEDs, which means the guys who walk roads that might explode and do it every day knowing that the math is simple and eventually the math wins. Marcus was lucky. The math didn't win, but the road outside Lashkar Gah won in a different way. An IED detonated 40 meters ahead of his vehicle, close enough to feel the pressure wave in his teeth, far enough to leave him physically intact. The 2 men in the vehicle ahead of him were not intact. Marcus pulled one of them out. The other one he couldn't reach. That was the dream. Every night, the road, the dust, the pressure, the sound, the reaching, the not reaching. Every night for 4 years. He'd tried everything. Prazosin, the blood pressure medication they prescribe off-label for PTSD nightmares. It helped for 6 weeks, then stopped. Cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia. EMDR, the eye movement therapy that's supposed to reprocess traumatic memories. Melatonin, trazodone, weighted blankets, white noise machines, rain sounds, ocean sounds. Guided meditation apps with women who spoke in voices so calm they made Marcus want to throw the phone at the wall. He'd tried sleeping on the floor because the bed felt too soft and too exposed. He'd tried sleeping in the closet because the closet was small and enclosed and nothing could come from behind. He'd tried not sleeping at all, staying up until his body shut down and gave him 2 or 3 hours of dreamless collapse before the nightmares found him again. Marcus lived alone in a house outside Roanoke, Virginia. 3 bedrooms, a yard, a fence. Bought with VA loan money because the realtor said it was a good investment. And Marcus said fine, because he said fine to everything that didn't involve an immediate threat assessment. His mother, Lorraine, lived in Richmond, 90 minutes east. She called every other day. Marcus answered about half the time. When he did, the conversations were short. "Yes, I'm eating. Yes, I went to the appointment. No, I don't need anything." Lorraine could hear the exhaustion through the phone. She could hear 4 years of not sleeping in the spaces between his words, the way his sentences trailed off, the way he'd go quiet for 5 seconds in the middle of an answer, like his brain had momentarily lost power. His VA therapist, Dr. Kessler, that was the one who mentioned the rescue. Not as therapy. The VA doesn't prescribe dogs the way they prescribe medication. He mentioned it the way you mention something when you've run out of official options and you're reaching for anything that might work. There's a rescue in the valley that has large guardian breeds. I've had 2 patients tell me that having a dog in the bedroom changed their sleep. I can't put that in your treatment plan, but I can tell you what they told me. Marcus drove to the rescue on a Saturday in November. He wasn't looking for a Tibetan Mastiff. He wasn't looking for anything. He was operating on 4 hours of broken sleep, and the particular kind of exhaustion that doesn't feel like tiredness anymore. It feels like weight, like gravity has been turned up, and every step takes more energy than it should. Audra met him at the gate. 18 dogs. Marcus walked past all of them. Shepherds, Mastiff mixes, a Great Pyrenees that pressed against the fence and wagged. Marcus's eyes moved the way they always moved, scanning, assessing, checking sight lines. Audra noticed. She'd worked with veterans before. She recognized the gaze. Last kennel. Sable was inside, lying in the back corner, his massive body filling most of the floor space, his mane spread around his head and shoulders like a dark cloud. He was asleep, or looked asleep. His eyes were closed. His breathing was slow and deep. Marcus stopped. He crouched. He didn't say anything. Sable opened one eye, just one. He looked at Marcus for 5 seconds. Then he closed it. He didn't get up. He didn't wag. He didn't press against the fence. He just looked, decided something, and went back to what he was doing, which was conserving energy, because it was daytime, and his shift didn't start until dark. "He does that," Audra said. "He sleeps all day and patrols all night. The previous owner couldn't handle it." Marcus was still crouching. He was looking at Sable the way you look at something that suddenly makes sense in a context you didn't expect. A dog that sleeps during the day and stands guard at night. A dog whose entire evolutionary purpose is to make sure nothing gets through the door while the people inside are sleeping. "What time does he start?" Marcus asked. "Start what?" "The patrol. What time does he wake up?" Audra looked at him. "Around sundown. He's usually pacing by 8 p.m. Marcus stood up. "I want him. You should know he's 170 pounds, highly independent, and I've handled bigger. I know what a night watch looks like." Marcus signed the papers at 2:15 p.m. Audra asked why he was so sure. Marcus said, "Everyone keeps trying to fix the night. He doesn't want to fix it. He wants to work it. So do I." The first night. Sable explored the house for 2 hours after sundown. Every room, every closet, every window. He sniffed the perimeter of every wall. He checked the front door, the back door, the garage door. Then he walked to Marcus's bedroom, stood in the doorway for 10 seconds, and lay down across the threshold. 170 pounds of black and tan blocking the only way in. Marcus lay in bed and looked at the ceiling. He could hear Sable breathing, deep, slow, steady. Not a white noise machine, not rain sounds. The sound of a living thing standing guard. The sound of something between him and the door that was bigger than he was and older than his fear and had been doing this for 3,000 years. He slept 4 hours. He woke once, not from a nightmare, from habit. He opened his eyes and the room was dark, and for 1 second the old panic started, the inventory. Where am I? What's the threat? Where's the exit? Then he heard Sable, breathing, in the doorway, between him and whatever was out there. The panic stopped, not slowly, immediately, like a switch being turned off. He closed his eyes and went back to sleep. That hadn't happened in 4 years. By week 2, Marcus was sleeping 5 hours. By week 4, 6. The nightmares didn't stop. Dr. Kessler said they might never stop completely. But they changed. They got shorter, less vivid. And when Marcus woke from them, sweating and chest tight, dust in his mouth, he'd open his eyes and hear Sable breathing in the doorway. And the transition from the dream to the room was faster. The road in Helmand Province would dissolve, and the bedroom in Roanoke would take its place, and Sable's breathing was the bridge between the two. The sound that said, "You're here, not there. You're home. I'm on watch." Sable had a pattern. Every 90 minutes he'd get up, walk through the house, bedroom, hallway, living room, kitchen, front door, back door, check each one, then return to the doorway and lie down. Marcus knew because he'd been awake for parts of it in the first weeks. He timed the patrols, 90 minutes, 10 minutes per round. Exactly the same every night. It was, Marcus realized, the most reliable thing in his life. More reliable than the medication. More reliable than the therapy. More reliable than his own body, which had been betraying him every night for 4 years. Sable's patrol was a clock, and the clock ran all night. And nothing got past it. But here's the thing that changed everything, the behavior that nobody predicted and no training manual covers. In week 3, Marcus had a nightmare at 3:12 a.m. The bad one, the road, the vehicle, the reaching. He woke up gasping, sitting upright, hands gripping the sheets. His heart was slamming. The room was dark. Sable was not in the doorway. Sable was on the bed. 170 pounds of Tibetan Mastiff had gotten up from the doorway, walked to the bed, and climbed onto it, which, for a dog that size, is not a graceful operation. He was lying across Marcus's legs, his massive body pinning Marcus's lower half to the mattress. His weight was enormous, not painful, not crushing, but absolute, like a weighted blanket that had a heartbeat. Marcus could feel Sable's chest expanding against his thighs, slow, deep, steady. The opposite of Marcus's heart, which was sprinting. Marcus didn't push him off. He lay back down. He put his hand on Sable's mane. His fingers disappeared into the fur, warm and dense, and underneath he could feel the dog's spine and the slow rhythm of his breathing. The weight on his legs was doing something to his nervous system that Marcus couldn't name but could feel, a grounding, a pressure, the physical message that said, "You are here, you are held, you are not on a road in Afghanistan. You are in a bed in Virginia with 170 pounds of dog on your legs, and you cannot leave this bed, and you don't need to, because I am here, and nothing is coming through that door." Marcus's heart slowed. His breathing matched Sable's. He fell asleep in 6 minutes. No nightmare. The first clean sleep cycle he'd had in 4 years. It happened every time after that. When the nightmares came and Marcus's breathing changed, Sable could hear it. The shift from sleep breathing to panic breathing. The dog would leave the doorway, climb onto the bed, and lie across Marcus's legs. Every time, the weight, the warmth, the heartbeat, the unspoken message, I'm here. You're not alone. Go back to sleep. Doctor. E. Kessler called it deep pressure stimulation. He said it was similar to the science behind weighted blankets. The sustained pressure activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reduces cortisol, increases serotonin. But a weighted blanket doesn't have a heartbeat, he said, and it doesn't know when you're having a nightmare. The dog does. Lorraine drove up from Richmond on a Sunday, 3 months in. She walked in and saw Sable lying on the living room floor, 170 pounds of mane and calm. She looked at Marcus. She saw something she hadn't seen in 4 years. She couldn't name it at first. Then she could. You slept, she said, 7 hours last night. Lorraine sat down in the kitchen chair. She put her hands flat on the table, the same way she'd done when she got the call that Marcus's convoy had been hit. The same gesture, and hands flat, bracing. But this time, she wasn't bracing. She was holding still so the relief could pass through her without knocking her over. 7 hours, she said. 7 hours. Lorraine looked at Sable. Sable was lying on the floor, eyes half closed, conserving energy, waiting for dark. She said, "Can I pet him?" "He'll let you. He won't care, but he'll let you." Lorraine put her hand on Sable's mane. She felt the warmth and the density and the slow breathing. She kept her hand there for a long time. Then she said, "Thank you," to the dog, very quietly, and Sable opened one eye, looked at her, and closed it again. Today, Sable is 5, 172 pounds. Marcus is 35. He sleeps 6 to 7 hours most nights. The nightmares still come, once a week, sometimes twice. But when they come, Sable is on the bed in seconds, 170 pounds across his legs, heartbeat steady. And the road in Helmand dissolves, and the room in Roanoke holds, and Marcus goes back to sleep. He has a job now, logistics coordinator at a warehouse in Roanoke, the kind of job where you track things and organize things and make sure nothing falls through the cracks, which is a skill set the Marines gave him and the nightmares almost took away. Dr. Kessler has started mentioning Sable in his sessions with other veterans. He doesn't prescribe dogs. He just says, "I had a patient. Hadn't slept in 4 years. He got a Tibetan Mastiff." He lets the silence do the rest. Lorraine comes once a month. She brings Sable a bag of the expensive treats from the pet store in Richmond, the ones made with bison, which Sable eats with the slow, yet deliberate chewing of something that knows it deserves bison. She doesn't bring up the years Marcus didn't sleep. She doesn't bring up the phone calls she made to the VA at 3 a.m. because she was afraid her son was going to hurt himself. She just sits in the kitchen and drinks coffee and watches Sable sleep on the floor, and sometimes she puts her hand on the dog's side and feels him breathe, and that's enough. Marcus still counts things, the exits, the seconds, but he counts one more thing now. Every morning, he opens his eyes, and the first thing he sees is Sable, back in the doorway by dawn, shift over, eyes half closed, waiting. And Marcus counts the hours. 6. Sometimes 7. Sometimes, on the best nights, 8. He counts them the way a man counts money he didn't think he'd ever have again. Not with greed, with disbelief. With gratitude so quiet it doesn't have a word. The previous owner's note is still in Sable's rescue file. Won't sleep at night, barks at nothing, blocks doors, can't control him. Every word is true, and every word is the reason Marcus Boone is alive and sleeping and standing in his kitchen at 6 a.m., making coffee with a 170-pound dog at his feet who has done the same job for 3,000 years and will do it tonight and every night until one of them can't anymore. Some dogs fetch, some dogs sit. Some dogs roll over for a treat. Sable doesn't do any of that. Sable does one thing. He stands between his person and the dark, and he doesn't move until morning. That's it. That's the whole job, and it saved a man's life.